And Rick, control your mute.
Live.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome to a very special Tuesday interview in the Mortgage Coach community. So every Tuesday, 9 o'clock live, I come here to bring you value from like-minded, like-valued mortgage professionals. And the values that we center everything around is leadership, advice over price, and of course, leveraging technology to bring leadership and value to clients. So this is a special one. We did an Amplify event. Gosh, Rene, what was that, 2 weeks ago in Seattle?
Yes, 2.5 weeks ago.
Yeah, and the group that is there is now family. And so Josh Mettle had a great idea, and that was a question that I get asked all the time is, what's your rate? And it's spring home buying season, or it's getting ready to be spring home buying season. And he wanted to prepare his team. He wanted to prepare every loan officer that he knows with how to answer that question. So let's kick it off with Rene. Why don't you share that key concept of framing, message, tie down, and then I'll bring in Josh and we'll get this thing going.
Absolutely. Well, Dave, I think this is such a powerful topic. Josh, what a brilliant idea. And it was fun to watch every single person in the group immediately jumped on, because it's just a universal topic. It's a universal challenge that everybody has. And it's not unique to the mortgage industry. It's unique to anybody selling anything. It's the question of rate is by far the saddest question being asked, because it's the quickest indicator that the client doesn't know what else to ask. And it's a sign of opportunity to say, you know what, this is a great opportunity to educate and help them see a bigger picture. And so as part of explaining the frame, message, tie down, I want to start with a frame. And I think the understanding the rate or price question in anything it is that you do, what I tell people all the time is that you can memorize a script, but if you don't believe the concept of value first internally, it doesn't matter. If you personally believe that the lowest price is the biggest value, you're going to have a hard time using any of the scripts that these professionals are going to share with you here today. And so you have to get internalized first with understanding that quality is best, quality is cheaper over time. All of those things at first we have to believe internally for us to deliver these things. And so what Dave asked was that we go through the scripting using the methodology that we talk about in Amplify, which is frame, message, tie down. And the quick brief of this, you can watch, I'll post in the comments my TED Talks. You can go in deep on that because I don't want to go in too much, because there's so much value these guys are going to be delivering. But the concept is too often we start with answering the question in the here and now. And so people say, what's our rate? And we feel this compelling urge to answer that question. And instead of putting a context around that question and putting something that helps us understand why we're going to be moving away from it. You've heard me tell the story of Alan Shepard and the first astronaut into space, that, you know, his question being launched off into space was the fact that everything on this rocket was built by the lowest bidder. That's a frame to look at things from a quality perspective versus just lowest rate. And so if we understand that the people coming at us with this, what is your rate question, it's really not the question they're asking. The question they're asking is, what's the value here? And since I don't know what else to measure the value, I'm going to go to the one thing that's tangible, and that's the price. And so can you answer that for us? And so we have to be able to reclaim the conversation in a way that structures us and steers us back to what the real question is what is the long-term value? And you've got an all-star cast here today, Dave, that's going to be going through their best practices of that. I'm going to play a very small role in maybe helping push the pause button on some of the key messages and key phrases that I saw. And so as you're listening to this group here, I want you to not only focus on memorizing what they say, because they have gone through this so many times, but how they say it. There's a beautiful thing when it comes to scripting, and a good script doesn't waste words. Everything, it's like a great quote. Every word in that quote is perfect. The scripting is also the same thing. And my personal belief is when I'm watching a master at their craft, I take notes, I memorize as they have done it first before I add my spin. Too often people say, okay, I got it, and they add their spin to it, and they missed maybe a critical component. So I'm just going to urge everybody is just memorize what they've done, learn it, and then add your spin. And then guess what we're going to ask you to do? Share what you've done, because we want to learn from you. And so that I'm excited. I'm going to be taking notes here because I think this applies to everything. And Dave, I think you have a sequence that you wanted to follow. And so follow with that and who you wanted to go with.
All right, guys. So This group is the Amplify Seattle crew. Every single person in this group is going to be asked, what's your rate? We are going to start it off with the guy who thought of it. We're going to start it off with Mortgage Coach Member of the Week, Josh Mettle out of Salt Lake, Utah. Josh and his team did 1,337 loans in 2019. Their goal for 2020 is 1,500. Josh, that's pretty bold, brother. You think you're going to get it?
I think we're going to get it.
Yeah, I am pumped to see you get after it. My favorite metric of all, you've done 2,726 total cost analysis. So 2,700 plus families have gotten more than price. They have gotten advice. Favorite book, when I asked you 2 days ago, was Big Leap. Big Leap. Favorite quote, and I love this, it was so interesting how everybody had a different quote. Success is not something you pursue, it's something you attract by the person you become. And I think that's going to be a great quote for this entire call. And your favorite Mortgage Coach feature is the Mortgage Coach video. So brother, ring, ring, what is your rate?
Before I answer that, Dave, I just got to give a plug for Rene and Amplify. I've probably told at least a dozen of my friends and realtors and other mortgage professionals that Amplify event in my mind was the #1 single event I have ever been to. It was incredible to see this group of professionals coalesce and really get vulnerable and then rebuild from this place of vulnerability and how to amplify our message and amplify our impact. So Rene, dude, seriously, thank you so much. I brought this back to my team. I just spent an hour and a half with a realtor partner of mine sharing this, and it is so incredibly valuable. It keeps getting more valuable as I apply it. And so I just want to really give you a moment and tell you thank you very much.
Thank you, man. I really appreciate that.
Yeah, you're welcome. So Dave, as you might suspect, what is your rate is probably the #1 question that I get from my clients. And what I think is kind of ironic, if you will, is it's not the question that will have the greatest impact on your family's wealth as it pertains to this piece of real estate, this home that you're going to buy. The question that we should be asking ourselves, and if we decide to work with one another, this is the question we're going to get at, is what is the best mortgage strategy for you and your family? And when we think about strategy, we need to encompass things like, where are you in regards to having a reserve emergency fund for your family? Do you have 3 to 6 months worth of savings set aside? What's going to be more important for you and your family? The lowest cash to close or the lowest payment? And where are you globally in your savings for retirement? Now, when I first bought my home many years ago, you may guess, and 99% of my colleagues, all they know to ask and give you is an interest rate. But that's because they have low levels of financial literacy. We can do better. What we're going to do if we decide to work with one another is we're going to go a little bit deeper. I'm going to ask you some questions. And before I prescribe you a solution, I'm going to find out a little bit more about you. And once we determine that, I'm going to give you a couple of different options. We'll call those mortgage strategies. I'm going to lay those out in a total cost analysis. Now, the total cost analysis is going to show you the total cost of each of these strategies over the time horizon you plan to be in the home. So we're going to dig a little bit deeper and find out how old your kids are and what might be happening in your professional career in the next few years and how long you might need this debt. And then I'm going to chart for you in easy to read charts and graphs the total cost of each of those strategies over the time horizon you plan to be in the home. And in addition to me charting the total cost of each of those strategies, I'm also going to show you the total equity or wealth that will be associated with the real estate under each of those strategies. Because when we make a decision on a mortgage, we need to think, what's the best strategy to have the lowest cost? And what's the best strategy to grow the greatest amount of wealth? So with that being said, if it's okay with you, let me ask you a couple of questions and then let's decide which strategy is going to work the best for you.
Wow. 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 Can I just jump in and say, I'm hearing such a cool, I mean, you really have reframed the entire conversation. One, you're a practitioner of everything that you are talking about. And so I'll just tell anybody doing this, that if the best answer to the rate question is be somebody who's really smart and practices all of these things first, because then you come from a place that's true, honest, and authentic. And you're not talking about something that is an idea of someone else's. And so if you want to answer the rate question, be really good at this, at these philosophies first. But you completely reframed. And what I just wrote down here is, in 18 years of doing this, I don't know why this just never clicked, but a mortgage isn't a rate or a payment. A mortgage is a strategy. So let's map out different strategies for you. So all of a sudden, it's not a rate and a payment. We're looking at a bigger financial strategy. And now I've already forgotten about rate and payment because I'm really interested in the things you're talking about are my savings, retirement, all the things that you just mentioned. That was beautiful.
Can I just add one more thing? To your point of a client say, what's your rate? Because that's the only question they know to ask. Do you know what I really think they're asking? Can I trust you? When I tell my little girl that she's getting bunk beds in her house and I go through the mortgage process with you, are you going to help me follow through to my commitment to my little girl that she's going to get those bunk beds? Nobody says that. They just ask for the rate. But if you can get them thinking down strategy, and if you can get them thinking that you care about them and you want to help them create the best strategy for their family, you get closer to what they really mean, which is, can I trust you?
That's beautiful. And if internally you put your heart in that right place of saying, when you hear that's my rate, you're really saying, hold on a second, this person is entrusting me with a really big question here. How can I help them see a bigger picture? That's just beautiful. I love it. I'm so glad this is being recorded.
All right, guys, this is being recorded. Josh, love you, brother. You completely crushed it. So the only thing I want to point out is everything Rene said, that you noticed how he got the focus off of payment, and he's talking about things over longer periods of time that are relevant to the client. So for our next leader, we're going to have Kelly Zitlow. Kelly Zitlow closed 349 loans for $106 million. Kelly, congratulations for a spectacular year.
Wow.
Kelly, are you unmuted?
I think she just disappeared.
Did she disappear? Are we going to have to go to someone else? All right.
Her picture just disappeared. I would go on to the next. We'll come back to her next.
No, I see her. Kelly, unmute yourself.
Can you see
Kelly?
me?
Oh, there she is.
There she is, girl. So congratulations. And she said she wants to increase her loans by 10%. So that'd be almost 373 loans. Of course, my number one metric is how many TCAs. 2,442 families served with more than price, served with advice. I have heard of this book, but The Code of Extraordinary Minds, pretty awesome, Kelly. Do we all need to read it?
It's mind blowing. I just love it. And yeah, and he's got a podcast. I listen to it almost every single day. It's just great thought leaders in our country and the world that just kind of pour into me. So great book. Love it.
Awesome. Well, I am going to pick it up, and looks like I have a podcast to add. I love your quote. I've learned that people will forget what you said, people will forget what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel. So coming from you, that is so true. Favorite mortgage coach feature is Mortgage Coach Live. So I love that. So let's do your, what's your rate? Ring, ring.
Hi, this is Kelly.
So wait, time out. Josh, ring, ring is for Josh to sound like your typical consumer, and then you go, Kelly. Josh Mettle, ring, ring.
Hi, Kelly. I was referred to you by Joan Pate, the best realtor of all time. She said that I should call you and see what your interest rates are for my new home.
Well, first and foremost, let's make sure we're educating our realtors, right? Because that is a big piece of this puzzle. But go ahead, Josh. So, hey, Josh, thank you so much for your call. Oh my gosh, have you worked with Joan in the past? And guys, this is important because part of my process, which is reflective of my favorite quote, is I'm going to break down barriers and get to know them as fast as I can and build trust just by listening. So that high trust call, that initial, I want to know and ascertain their most important thing. And if I can figure that out in 2 to 3 minutes, then it really does change this rate conversation. So I just want to be sure that that context, that's my approach every single time. If somebody asks me the rate, which you are, I'll say something along the lines of, Josh, that is such a great question. And, you know, after lending for 24 years, there are so many different rate options. A lot of the interest rate is driven based on the program, etc. What we do is a lot different than what most mortgage lenders do. Once we get into it and I know more about you and your goals and your family and really what your objectives are, we're going to build out a cost analysis, and we're going to show you not only the maximum you can qualify for, but we're going to get into the difference based on different price points and down payment options, etc. And we're going to show you not just payment, but what that means over time. I'm a big believer in transparency. I think that the technology is great in this world today, but when it comes to home lending, I do not believe that you push a button and you get a home loan. This is your first home and you're buying a $400,000 house. That's a big deal. And I want to be sure that you're empowered and you know the right questions to ask as you go through this process. That's really what I say and how I kind of lead into it every single time.
Love it. Awesome.
Josh, did you want to have a follow-up to that? I think I'd love to hear what a follow-up question to that, because I think there's a lot more that Kelly has in her upper sleeve on this topic.
Yeah. So Kelly, you mentioned different programs and maximum qualifying. How do we go about figuring that out, and what programs do you normally recommend for first-time home buyers?
So there are a variety of programs out there. A lot of what will make sense will depend on your credit profile, your down payment goals, and if you're going to be getting a gift or using down payment assistance. So as we move into the next parts of the process, which is going to be completing a loan application, we're going to pull your credit and ask you for some documentation. Once we get into that, we're really going to give you the full strategies that are available to you.
Got it.
So, the things that I noticed right away, first, I loved what you said, Kelly, which is you immediately picked up on, if I'm getting a realtor that I refer from a realtor and they instructed them to ask for a rate, I got a bigger problem. I haven't gotten my realtors on board here. And I mean, it's so critical to have your referral partners scripted and trained on how to refer. I know that I used to go to them and say, hey, this is what my script I'm going to be using to talk about you. How do you refer me? And then that would usually flush out a lot of the big questions. Do you have any strategies for what you and how you work with your realtors?
Yeah, I mean, exactly what you're saying, Rene, and that is having that face-to-face conversation and really educating them on why we used a cost analysis, our approach. We are not a low-cost lender. I don't believe that, and I don't really think that there's anything such as the lowest rate. I mean, what does that mean? The lowest rate for what, $12,000 in cost, the lowest rate with no discount points, the lowest rate on an FHA loan when really a conventional loan is a better option. So I really educate them because they don't get it. And so a lot of that initial kind of those meetings I have, even if it's a new realtor or a longtime realtor, I'm always bringing back the strategy of what we do and why we do it.
I love it.
It's different for every person.
I love that the question came, what's your rate? And your first wasn't answering. You asked a question in response. You're, oh my God, that's wonderful. How long have you been working with so-and-so? And again, that's resisting that urge to ask a question and going into the relationship. So I think remember that when you ask that question, it's okay to ask a question in return that really diverts the conversation over to the relationship, which like you said, fuels your value system, what you actually believe. And your frames that I saw you use were talking about the bigger context. One was, well, let's look at what determines a rate. You even said it just now, rate for what? Rate in this, rate in that. There's such a bigger question there. Programs is a piece of it that determines it. And then you said over time, which kind of triggered a question for me of something I used to do too, with somebody that also has had a mortgage in the past. I'd say, well, let me ask you, your last mortgage, did it bring you closer to or further from your financial goals? And I would just use that as to say, well, it brought me closer to. Well, great. How? What did it do? Or what do you mean it did? What do you mean it just was a payment? Now all of a sudden that's an opportunity to say, well, in 5 years, you're going to look at me and say, either got closer to or further from. Let's look at a bigger strategy. I love that. Anything you want to add to that, Kelly?
I think just on that note, Rene, that exactly for people that aren't first-time home buyers, let's dig back into, and I do this quite often in markets that appreciate, and our market is one of those, which is probably the whole country here. But, you know, let's take a peek at their current mortgage, what they paid for the house 10 years ago, what the current market value is, how much equity they have there. And that is all built out in a cost analysis. So we can almost replicate that conversation with the stepping stone of what their next goal is with the next property, which is beautiful.
I love that. You can even say the last time you rented, did renting bring you closer to or further from? Just the question, whether they don't have an answer or not, I think will unveil so much of where their thinking is at. I love it. Dave?
Got it, guys. So I love this. Let's remember we have a few more people. We're 20 minutes in and we've done 2 and they have been spectacular. So Kelly, you killed it. I do hope we have some time at the end to also speak to that question from a realtor's perspective. When realtors can say, hey, do you have a great rate? How do you respond to an agent? So with that said, I'm going to bring in our next guest, Mr. Rick Scherer. Rick, are you ready, buddy?
Let's do it, my friend.
All right. So let's go through Rick's stats. Rick is out of Boston. So I can hear a little bit of an accent there. 281 loans for $100 million. Congratulations, brother. My favorite metric, 1,843 total cost analysis. Love this quote, and Jeremy, I'm sure we'll hear it when he talks about what he does, but good people deserve great advice. Favorite book, The Go-Giver. And
Dave.
Go ahead, Rick.
I don't think these are my slides.
Oh no, I messed up. Is this your favorite feature? Your favorite MC feature?
Those are mine, Dave.
No.
Yeah, well, I will have to fix that.
I can
in the
adapt.
next one. You can adapt.
Quote Jamie Forcier.
So what is your favorite quote?
If you believe that business is built on relationships, making those your business.
Love that. And favorite mortgage coach feature?
I love the notification feature. All too often I'm sitting at night and all of a sudden I'm getting pinged that people are going and looking, and maybe I haven't talked to them in a couple of weeks. It's a really great way to follow up right then and there and get their attention and actually get them re-engaged.
Love it, brother. Well, I'm going to bring in Josh Mettle now to put you through the script. Ring, ring.
Hey, Rick, this is Josh. I am searching for a mortgage and just wondering if you could give me some rate quotes.
Josh, hey man, thanks so much for giving me a call. And yeah, I would love to answer your question. So the great thing about mortgage rates and mortgage programs is everything is customizable. So I remember when I bought my first house really recently, being in the business, I actually went in my own brain right to a 30-year fixed. And then what I did is I actually took my own medicine and went through the 8 different questions that I asked every single one of my clients in order to dive into what a mortgage plan actually looks like for each one of my clients. And what I found is when I went through my own steps around that I actually ended up in such a different place than a standard 30-year fixed. So Josh, the reason why I tell you this is what I want to do right now is spend a couple of minutes diving into your specialized situation so that we can uncover as much information so that I can do what's called a total cost analysis for you. And I do it for every one of my clients. And what this is it's putting a couple of different options side by side. Options that we uncover based on the information that you provide me so that you can make a true decision around the costs associated with every different mortgage program we look at. So let's get into it. I'd love to, first start off by asking you, what's important to you? Is it the lowest mortgage interest rate, or is it the lowest payment? And then I go through a bunch of different options and then start to move them into a mortgage plan.
Well, and you totally moved me off the impetus on rate. The thing that came out in my mind was, what are the 8 questions and what are you going to advise me? That I actually totally left my original trend of thought. And I'm just curious about what your 8 questions are now and how that's going to curtail into advice for me.
Yeah.
Nice, dude.
Yeah.
Rene?
So powerful. I'm going to save my questions for last. Rick, that was just beautiful. Your tie down was amazing when you said dive into specialized situation. That was brilliant.
Great.
Dave?
I think, Dave, we're waiting for the next one.
I don't know, man. You did that so quick. I did not see that coming.
Hey,
So,
listen,
You texted me
Rene
to hurry
said
up,
keep
bro.
it tight.
well, I keep it tight, but I was just like, don't add on questions. You can still give some color.
Well,
And
I'll say
I
this,
think
I'll say this while you're getting that ready. So just tee it up. The best part, I love what you said, Rick, was you got excited about the question. You said, man, that's what I love about rates, is that it's customizable. Brian Tracy used to teach, anytime you say, well, it's too expensive, you'd say, that's exactly why you should buy it. It just turned that enthusiasm into the question. And I just love how you did that.
love it.
Yeah,
And we got to make sure.
Yeah, if you want me to add on a couple more things. So, essentially I start with kind of throwing them off a kilter a little bit around asking them the question, is it more important for the lowest interest rate or more important for the lowest payment? They think that means the same thing. So really kind of putting them off kilter a little bit, letting them think about that, and, finding out what their timeline in the house is, obviously. Talking about, how much money do you have allocated for closing costs? And what is that, what's your plan around when you get in the house, that type of thing. Talking about interest over time. So, and again, the questions go deeper and deeper as the answers come at me. And then that's when we get into, 2 or 3 different options on a total cost analysis.
Love it. And I got your slide up right. Favorite book, Extreme Ownership, which was one of my favorite books too. So now we got the one and only, the first member of the month when we started this program, Mr. Jeremy Forcier. Jeremy, are you unmuted and ready to rock?
Yes, I'm unmuted.
All right. So Jeremy closed one loan shy of 300 last year, 299 for 129 million, plus leads a team in a region. Not only my favorite metric, but I have to say my favorite mortgage coach member with 5,692 TCAs, all self-created by you, Jeremy. So dude, that is like epic. It's amazing that you created that many. Your favorite quote is Good by Jocko. If you guys have not listened to that YouTube video, Good by Jocko, Google it, Good, Jocko Willink. It's one of my all-time favorites. Favorite books, Bible and the Little Engine That Could. And your favorite feature in Mortgage Coach is the Mortgage Coach video forever, brother. So I am going to tee you up, Josh Mettle, ring, ring.
Jeremy, I've been calling a bunch of other banks, and I need to know what your interest rate is today.
Hello?
Hi, Jeremy. Yeah, I'm calling about your interest rates.
Oh, hey, I'm so sorry. I couldn't hear you at first. This is Jeremy Forcier. How are you today?
I'm doing super good. Thanks. How are you, Jeremy?
I'm doing great. What was your name again?
Oh, my name's Josh.
Josh, pleasure to meet you, man. I'd be happy to help you in any way, shape, or form that I can. So how did you get my name and phone number, Josh?
I think you helped one of my friends get a mortgage, and he said that you got him a really low rate.
Oh, awesome, man. Which friend, man? It sounds like you're a popular guy.
Yeah, I think it was John Downs.
John Downs, dude, I love John, man. I haven't talked to him in a while. I should follow up with him. How do you know John?
Oh, we're old time buddies, man. Yeah, we our families go way back. His little girls and my kids are like peas in a pod.
Oh, that's awesome. How old are your kids?
Oh, my son Xander is 10 and Aria is 8.
Dude, with a name like Xander and Aria, I think they're bound to be kings and queens. What do you think?
Drama queens for sure. Yeah, Aria's got that one down in spades.
Man, I have a little girl too, and she's like a stand-up comedian. I don't know where she gets it from, but it's pretty funny to watch her perform.
How old is she?
She's 13.
Awesome. You got hormones rolling in your house then.
It's kind of unbelievable. I have a wife who's amazing. I have a 17-year-old daughter, a 13-year-old daughter, 2 female dogs, and a female bunny. So you can only imagine what I go through on a daily basis.
Well, that would explain why you're in the office.
That is true. I'm wearing workout clothes, and I have been here since very early in the morning. You got me already, Josh. So Josh, tell me, how can I help you today?
Well, man, I'm looking to buy a house for my family.
Okay.
And just trying to figure out what's going to be the best loan for them.
Okay, great. So is this a first-time purchase, or do you already own a home?
We own a home, and we're going to be buying another home. And so that's another challenge we have, is we're going to need to figure out how we're going to move that equity, because I don't have enough money for a down payment unless I sell my house. But Xander and Aria happen to like roofs over their heads. So I got to figure out how we're going to do that.
Okay, so your goal is to buy a new home and keep your current home, or are you looking to sell your current home?
Would probably sell my current home.
Okay, great. Now, as far as moving, are you moving up in value? Are you looking at the same purchase prices, or have you even got that far yet?
Probably be moving up.
Oh, moving up. Okay, great. What is your home value right now?
It's about $1 million.
Okay, about $1 million. Awesome, man. So where do you think you want to land as far as a purchase price goes on the new house?
We've been looking somewhere in the 1.5 to 1.7 range.
Cool.
My
Now,
wife, if you ask my wife, she'd tell you 2, but I'm telling you 1.5.
what is your wife's name?
Hillary.
Hillary. I can already tell that Hillary's the most important person. Is that true?
That is very true.
Why don't we have Hillary on the phone call, Josh?
That's a good question. She's currently at work, so somebody's got to make money around here.
Cool. Well, I totally get it. And listen, I'd be honored to help you. Your initial question was, you're working with a lot of banks, and what is my rate? And the reality is that I could just tell you anything I want right now, but I'd be just like everyone else. I'd be a liar. Do you want to work with a liar?
No.
Me neither. I want to be honest and authentic in every single thing that I do. So here's what I'd love to do. I'd love to take you through a few questions that I have about your scenario. I understand you're moving up. I understand you need to figure out, can you buy this house before you sell your house? What are the pros and cons of it? And we have to come up with a strategy that ultimately is going to work for you. And that's going to depend on a lot of different things. Are you looking to be free and clear on your house, meaning have it paid off in a certain time frame? Or are you really still in your prime earning years? Are you looking to accumulate as much cash wealth as possible? Answering all those types of questions will help me design a great strategy for you where you can pick whatever rate you want based on a strategy that's going to be in line with your family goals long term.
Got it. Where do we get started?
Cool.
I mean, I just wrote on the thing, that's pure brilliance. I mean, Jeremy, I am such a huge fan of what you did in the beginning. It's a diffuser, it's a disruptor, a pattern interrupt. I think it did it in the movie Star Wars recently, where the guy was talking about, we're going to take over the world. And he's like, hello, I can't hear you. He's like, and he, makes some comment, and all of a sudden he can't hear it. And it just diffuses a weak question. And if there is weakness there and you put the ball back in their court to say it again, you watch the strength of that question sort of start to die. And you immediately divert to what matters most, which is the relationship, to get to know them. And I'm assuming, Jeremy, that you, at the end of the day, if the person were to say, you know what, I don't care about that stuff, I just want to know your rate, I'm assuming you probably don't even want to do business with them at that point.
Well, that is true, but that does happen, by the way. Let's be honest, right? I mean, I have people that call me and say, that's great, but I just need to know what the rate is. And this is my answer, just so you know. Happy to give it to you. So I always want to give anyone what they want. Happy to give it to you. It looks like today we could get you 0. How does that sound? And it's my same diffuser, pattern interrupt, thought interrupt. I always say that. And the question always is, excuse me? Or did you say 0? Yeah, absolutely. It sounds like you have enough cash to buy this house free and clear. And you don't have to pay any interest on a loan. And it sounds like that's the best strategy for you. That's what I say.
And it's right. That's the thing, is the thing I wrote down, I'm writing themes for every one of you, is that you masterfully control the conversation to keep it on the track of what really matters most, which is the relationship and the advice that you're giving over a bigger picture. And you're not allowing even an ounce of a ridiculous question of what's rate, because you, at the end of the day, know that that's not what matters most. I mean, pure brilliance. And the other thing, if you guys didn't notice, he's updating his database during this process. He knows his wife's name, he knows daughter's name, he knows everything, and he's taking notes of all these things, and his database knowledge is just growing. See right there, knowing the whole process. And if you also didn't notice, he's managing the parties involved, all the decision makers. Anybody knows that they're in sales. If they're talking to just one person, that is a huge risk. If you don't understand both parties in this and honoring the husband and wife, if that's piece, you're already at a big risk. It was masterful.
It was pure brilliance, Jeremy. I want to let anyone know who wants to hear more about Jeremy's process. I interviewed him and Denise Donahue this Tuesday. It was a spectacular call. It was transcribed. So if you're watching the YouTube of that call, there's a transcription available. This was a specific quote. And I think so much mortgage professionals, we get in our own head around this thing. And to Jeremy's point, so much of it, it's our energy. You listen to everyone on this call right now, they deliver advice, not price. And you can't fake that. You can't fake the confidence that they have because they know advice makes a difference. And they've done it thousands of times. So for all you fee worksheet loan officers listening to this, going, wow, this seems hard, or my clients won't do this, trust me, it's just a question of reps. And the best loan officers, they change the game. Every one of these are changing the game. And then I think it's also important to note, Jeremy focuses on that triangle of trust, something that he learned from coaching, from the core. Every single client, every single time, he's working on creating a triangle of trust, and he's gotten really good at it. He's become a genius at it because he's not done it 10 times. He's not done it hundreds of times. He's done it thousands of times. So he is a master at triangulating for trust and then delivering advice, which is just a 1-2 punch. You have relationship and trust, you deliver tangible advice, you win. All right, so our next guest is Shannon O'Hara. Shannon, are you ready from Bozeman, Montana?
I am ready.
Right on. So Shannon closed over 100 loans last year for $49 million. Her goal for 2020 is $100 million. She is a black belt at mortgage coach with 453 TCAs. Favorite book, The Go-Giver.
Yeah, I have a couple of corrections on there too, but that's okay. What did I
do?
I
don't know how I did this. I don't know how I got these wrong. Well, we won't do the screen. What are your corrections, by the way?
Well, so I had 171 loans for 56 million. Goal for 2020, 200 loans, 65 million. And I'm going to jump right to my favorite mortgage coach tools. I love the combination of the sophistication of the data and the information that mortgage coach provides, coupled with the personal touch of the video. I just think that creates a transparency that is unmatched out there, and it just makes our job so much easier.
Love it. So let's bring in Josh Mettle, your challenging customer, and ring.
Hi, Shannon. This is Josh Mettle. I'm just curious what kind of interest rates you might have for a mortgage on a new home I'm looking at buying.
Hey, Josh. Thanks for calling. How'd you find me?
I actually was referred to you by a realtor at an open house, and unfortunately, I don't remember that realtor's name at this moment, but they did say that you were the best.
All good. So you're looking to purchase a home at this point?
Correct.
Awesome. Well, tell me kind of your big picture goals and vision with getting the mortgage and a little bit more about what you're looking to do.
Well, I think what's most important for me is to keep my payment within the budget that I've decided with my wife. And so, I think it's really important that we get the lowest overall interest rate so that I can hit that payment. And, also we don't have 20% down. So I need to think through what the best loan would be if you have loans with less than 20% down.
Awesome. So you are going to be buying a home and you're moving into this property. It will be a primary residence?
Yep. My family and I are moving in.
Awesome. All right. Well, the cool thing about our process and this really cool tool that I have is we can sit down, and once I learn a little bit more about what you're looking to do and what that price point looks like to really meet that payment goal for your family, we can show a bunch of different options and just make sure that there's clarity and that both you and your wife and your family are fully understanding and comfortable with how we move forward, and that we can agree on what that ultimate budget truly is. So tell me a little bit more. What's your tie to this area? What's your tie to Montana?
I love trout fishing and skiing, and so my family decided to move here.
Awesome. And so with this home, and obviously it'll depend on the property you find, but do you know, is this a 2-year property, or is it kind of a long-term, or what stage are you guys at in life, and how long do you see yourself being in this property?
Well, kids are 8 and 10, so my guess is by the time they're moved out or we kick them out, we'll probably be ready for a new home. So I'd say 8 to 10 years is probably likely.
Awesome. Well, as I mentioned, I've got this software, and so we'll definitely talk about interest rate and strategy, but there's a couple of cool other strategies we can talk about with maybe a seller buy down or some different forms of mortgage insurance that are going to really allow you to get into that home with ease and keep some cash in your pocket and really hit that payment goal. And so I think if you are interested, let's just get into the application. That gives me the clarity that I need to be able to best advise you. And then we can jump back into that rate conversation and make sure we're on the same page with everything. How's that sound?
Okay, that sounds doable.
I love it. My quick thoughts are immediately you're going to see a commonality is that all of these pros divert away from the question into something else. And they all love to know where they were found. I'm guessing you want to know what marketing did I do that drove you to me, right? Because then you're looking at what your marketing ROI is and those pieces. Again, you drove to a bigger picture. I love that you said the cool thing about this process, very similar to Rick, is that word cool in front is that frame. Oh, the best part about this, the most exciting thing about this, what's really cool about this is it sets the frame of the conversation, which is, well, unfortunately, I'm going to have to ask you a few questions before I can answer that. Unfortunately, creates a negative frame. But really the cool part creates a positive frame. That language is such a critical choice there. And I loved what you did. That was slick. You made yourself part of the purchasing team. You said, well, what we'll do is we'll get together. I'm going to show you the software. We'll run some numbers, and then together we can make a decision. It wasn't now you're on their side of the table instead of across the table just through your language. And I'm already feel like I'm with a pro. She's going to help me. She's a co-purchaser of this now. It's not just me. I've got an advisor. It's really cool. And then you drove to application, which gets you the data. So it was just masterful how simply you did that. Great job.
Love it. You killed it. And also it's not just to find the referral source. It's for triangle of trust. It's to find how can I commonly trust you? So Dan Keller, are you ready, brother? So Dan, you may be on mute. Dan is the one that brought this Amplify crew together. He was going through his third Amplify. So Dan, before I do the ring in a minute here, I'm going to ask you to, share what Amplify has done for you. But folks, Dan killed it last year. He closed 221 loans. I got that right, Dan, right? It's 98 million. I've got the right slide for you.
No.
Seriously?
I wish I did 221. I did 204 for 89.
Okay.
And 225 is my goal this year.
Well, we got the all-time TCAs right. I know that because I checked it. And this is your favorite book, right? Sell or Be Sold.
Yep.
And this is your favorite quote. The further you walk away from accountability, the weaker you become, by David Goggins. And this is your favorite MC feature, total cost analysis, net worth over 5 years. And I know we're going to be doing an interview on this soon. So before we get into the ring, what has Amplify done for you?
Amplify has done something different for me at every single one. I think the last Amplify in Seattle, a lot of people went deep. At every Amplify, people go really deep personally. I'd already been there, okay? So I didn't have the experience that 10 other people had at that Amplify that I had at my first Amplify. So every Amplify, I take the same notebook, the same notes, but different ahas. And so it's almost like at this point for me, it's a training. It's not a workshop. It's just ongoing training. Rene is, I think Josh put it so eloquently. It's an event that we normally don't have access to. You don't know we have access to. It's something new that I think everyone needs.
Agreed. So it's not just speaker training. It is how to be a better you. And how to go from your head to your heart and connect those two. So let's see how you answer this question. I will tee up Josh Mettle. Ring.
Hey, Dan, this is Josh Mettle. I am new to the area and interested in getting some information on what kind of interest rates you might have for a mortgage.
Hey, what's going on, Josh? How you doing today?
I'm doing really good, thanks.
Hey, Josh, I have a quick question. How did you hear from me? Did you have an attorney, a financial planner, or a real estate professional introduce me?
I actually found you online. You had done some sort of online marketing that I stumbled across and thought you looked pretty good in a suit. So I thought I'd call you and see how competitive you can be.
It was probably a video. What video do you remember watching?
You were talking about something about baseball, and I connected baseball and mortgage.
Josh, it's a big passion of mine. It's a career that I had for a dozen years prior to getting into finance back in 2009. I was a college professor and a college baseball coach. And it was a perfect fit, me getting into the mortgage industry, Josh, because as I got into mortgage and sales, I immediately saw a gap, and the gap was education. And so the reason why you found my video is that about 12 years ago, I started creating content to educate the consumers, because the consumers, one, you guys were not getting the information that you needed. This is a incredible financial decision that you're about to embark on. It's going to be most likely the largest, I would assume, Josh, that you'll be making in your life so far.
True.
And so a lot of thought needs to go into that. A lot of preparation, a lot of education needs to go into it. I've been hosting homebuyer classes for the last 10 years. And what I've done, Josh, is I've listened over the last 10 to 12 years to attendees of our homebuyer classes, first-time homebuyers that I work with. And I've been able to put together a playbook for you guys. And I do this through videos, but I'm also going to give you something when we get off the call that will answer every question that you have right now about the process, but it will also answer questions that you don't even know that you have right now about how big of a financial decision this is. So I just need a couple pieces of information from you real quick. You mentioned that you relocated to the area. I'm assuming first-time homebuyer?
Second-time homebuyer.
Okay, awesome. You have a house to sell right now?
I do.
Where's that house located?
All right, so let's pause. You got me off rate. You're moving me down the application piece. Rene, what are your thoughts?
Dan has such a brilliant, powerful way of being an authority and immediate authority in what it is. And obviously, again, diverted triangle for trust, know where the marketing is. And the guy just, I love that you said, I saw you online somewhere. And he's like, it was probably a video. It says probably, but he drove that for a purpose, which was to tee up his frame that he was a college professor, college baseball coach, which builds the ethos that's immediately tied into, I saw a gap, which was education, which led into why you saw the video. I mean, it was just full circle. He knew where he was going. He knew why it was. That's his value proposition. No matter what we could have said, we would have heard something along those lines of what his value proposition was, which was I just love watching him do that. The ethos, frame, gap, education, and being an authority. And of course, as you said, drove right to application. Beautiful.
Yeah, Dan, I thought that was super powerful. That whole comment around you being an educator and a professor and you seeing a gap and a place for you to step in and serve. I was completely off my original track, and I just became really interested in your story and how that could play into helping me. So that was really good.
Great job, Dan. So we are about 10 minutes left. We've got a few more people to hit. For anybody watching this, I'm going to go long, make sure that every leader on this call gets a chance to share how they reframe in any leadership notes that they have. So this may go a little longer than the normal call. We have Mr. Greg Anderson from Seattle. And Greg, did I get your stats right here? 221 loans for 87 million in 1999. Yes. 100 million is the goal for 2020. 1,179 all-time TCAs. The Go Giver is his favorite book. Good people deserve great advice, quote Jeremy Forcier. And your favorite features are both video and live. Did I get that right, my brother?
Yes, sir. Thank you. Everybody's
Good.
favorite Go Giver, by the way. Just letting you know.
It is an awesome book. So let's see how you handle this. Ring, ring, Josh Mettle.
Hey, Greg, my name's Josh. I'm curious about what kind of interest rates you have available today.
Hey, Josh, thanks for calling me. Where did you get my name?
I believe that I found your information was given to me by a realtor that I met, but I can't remember the realtor's name at the moment, unfortunately.
Oh my gosh, where did you meet that realtor?
It was in an open house, and I went to a bunch of open houses this weekend, so that's why I can't remember who we spoke to.
Cool. Well, I'll tell you what, I'm going to do you a favor. I'm going to follow up with some of my key realtor partners, and I'm going to find out who referred you so I can make sure you get back with them. If you like them enough to call me, you probably want to work with them to purchase your next house.
Cool. Yeah, we're undecided there, but if you have a recommendation, I'm open.
Perfect. So, hey, let me start by saying, you asked kind of what our rates are and what rates are, and that's absolutely an important part to the mortgage and the home purchase process. I remember when I bought my first home and was not in the mortgage business. It's 25 years ago. And I look back on that now, being in the mortgage business for the last 15 years, and I have absolutely no doubt that I was put in a horrible mortgage for me and my family. So when I got into this business, my focus has been from that day is I will never let that happen to any of my clients, my friends or family that I help with their home mortgage. So rate is absolutely an important thing. Can you give me the next two most important things to you in this process of getting a mortgage and deciding who you want to work with?
That's a good question. Certainly payment. You know, there's my wife and I are Dave Ramsey fans, and so we want to make sure that we do something inside of our budget. And also we have a lot of attention on, you know, when we're going to pay that mortgage off. Our kids will be out of school in 10 years. And so we'd like to have less obligations, certainly by the time they move on and go on to college.
Yeah, absolutely. Those are the most important things. So I've got rate, I have payment, and then I have what we call freedom point. So when you're done with that mortgage, you're going to be at a point where you can focus your attention elsewhere in your financial portfolio. So those are things that we're going to go through, Josh. What I'd like to do is set up a time to meet with you face to face to go through all of the aspects of your financial situation to see how I can help. Because you'd be surprised, but in a poll, 67% of people said that they did not get the mortgage that would have best fit them when they chose a mortgage option. And the reason for that is, as you probably have been shopping around for rates, you've probably come across some people who've said, oh, our rate is X or our rate is Y, and they don't really dive into your financial situation to see what's best for you and your family. And so if you were to just take that rate because it sounded good, you might be one of those 67% of people who decided to make a choice based on just what the rate is without focusing on the other factors. We don't want to do that for our clients.
Awesome. Nice job, brother. Rene?
Yeah, again, you saw it. He diverted to what the bigger question, but he did something a little different this time. You felt like he was listening to you, and he validated the question. He goes, you know what? I totally understand how the rate is really critical, and it is a critical component in it. So it validated the person instead of, you know, one approach is just to move completely off of it. Another one is to validate it and slowly and softly move right off of it. Your tie down was really simple because you validated and then went right into your personal story of your own horror story. And that came into your why and your tie down, which was, and that's why I made a commitment to never let that happen to somebody again. And anybody listening to that saying, wow, you know what, actually, I really appreciate that because I really don't want that happening. I love that you had them rank, again, what their pieces, what was most important. Again, this is just a method to get people thinking differently through questions. And you drove to set an appointment because you listened and validated so well. Your appointment was very focused on addressing the issues that you unearthed previously. And I love that you put a statistic to it. So validating and listening is what I wrote down.
I love it, guys. So we are going to go a little long. I've got two more people to bring in. Then I'm going to give everybody a chance to just like, what was your big takeaway? And then we will wrap this up. So for our next leader, we have Mr. Tony Blodgett. So Tony is a regional leader. His region closed 1,954 loans for $750 million. His goal for 2020 is $750 million. While Tony is not an active loan officer today, once upon a time, he used to use Mortgage Coach as a producer and had done over 1,000 TCAs. Favorite book is Can't Hurt Me by David Goggins. Favorite quote is happiness is a mindset, not a destination. And his favorite features of Mortgage Coach are the TCA Live and the Rate Watch app. So Tony Blodgett, I'm going to bring Josh Mettle in. I don't know if you want to script it and just do the ring, or whether you want to just provide some sales leadership from what you've heard? How do you want to play this, Tony?
Yeah, I think what I've picked up from everybody so far is, the exact process that I would always do, and something that I've always talked to my loan officers about, which is to shift the conversation, right? I mean, you need to, I don't know if we all got this from the same book, but, always asking where the referral came from, endorsing that referral partner if it was from a realtor, or acknowledging where it came from. And then really shifting into, quoting you an interest rate is a complex process. And there's some questions I have to ask you to be able to get to what the best interest rate would be. And as most of us know, interest rates do change on a daily basis. And one of the things that I do, Dave, and you and I have done some calls on this, and this is why I said Rate Watch is my favorite part of the mortgage coach experience, is because I think talking about fiscal literacy is really important during the loan process, because I think what borrowers don't realize is that interest rates do change, sometimes multiple times throughout the day, definitely on a daily basis. And during the time that they're getting pre-approved until they find a home, there could be a difference in what the market interest rate is. And so we need to address that. And by addressing that up front, I think it takes away some of the, certainty that they're even going to be able to get an exact interest rate quote from you on that conversation. Because as many of you have already pointed out on this call, you just can't give someone a rate that day. Or as Jeremy said, well, look, it's whatever rate you want today, So I think that that's an important part of the process is, first of all, understanding fiscal literacy, understanding mortgage-backed securities and how they move. And then what I would do is use the mobile app and actually share, if I have them in my office, which is my preferred way of meeting with the client, I would bring up the mortgage coach widget either on my phone or on my computer and show them the volatility in the market. As you know, Dave, I like to use the day watch and really show them how much the market is moving. Or I'll just send screenshots right from my phone, or use the share feature within Rate Watch and say, hey, just so you know, this is what the last week has looked like in regards to interest rates. And just know that I'm going to keep my finger on the pulse of what's going on, because locking in the very best rate on the wrong day can cost you thousands of dollars. And so I think that that's one aspect I want to make sure I got out on this call, is when I think about rate, I think about making sure that in your process, we're all going to ask this series of questions. We're going to divert them from the question, but in that process of building rapport, you have to also set yourself up as someone who is a student of the market, and you're going to be giving them good advice on the timing of when to best lock in their interest rate, and that's a critical piece. So other two notes that I took, go ahead.
No, you go.
Well, the other two things I wanted to point out is really for our loan officers on this call. Obviously, you're getting a lot of great scripts today on how to divert away from what's your rate today. But something that I've noticed in the market, and again, I'm a regional leader, so I'm not selling loans every day. I'm looking at this business from a different perspective most of the time. And one of the things I noticed that I think we're not used to is that the secondary market really isn't paying for higher interest rates. And so you really need to, as it relates to specifically when you get to the point of quoting the actual interest rate, I think it's really important today more than ever to look through that rate stack and find the best value. Obviously, you're going to dump those options into a TCA so that you can show the borrower the different options, but you need to look beyond the par interest rate and find the rate that's the most value and what the secondary market is paying the most for, what coupon it is. And you can't do that just simply by going to the closest to par rate, which I think so many of us have been trained to do over time. And the last point I want to make about this whole conversation around what's your rate is that what's the alternative if you're not able to maintain the rate that you have on your rate sheet? There's two options. Either one, you're not able to turn this conversation into where you're creating more value for this person than what they, shift the conversation to the advice over price, and you ultimately lose that customer, or you're going to go to your company and you're going to try to get a pricing exception so that you can match a price so that you can even have a chance at this deal. Both of which are very dangerous and expensive. And I just made a couple notes here. For a region my size, which is not a huge region, just giving up 25 basis points of pricing exception on average would cost over $180,000 a month in actual revenue into into a region or into a branch. And when you think about that, I mean, that's all the cost to pay for all the processors, underwriters, and funders within your whole team, just by a quarter of a discount point. So these things are important so that you don't lose clients and so that you build rapport, but they're also important from the business standpoint of this industry, which is maintaining margin. And the last thing is that as a regional leader, I have to look at these numbers all the time, and your branch manager or your regional or someone is going to be looking at leakage. And if there's constant leakage, because as a loan officer, you're not able to have this conversation with your borrowers where you're able to maintain margin and shift the conversation off of rate. I mean, the rate sheet you have is dependent on the support staff you have, the rent that you pay, all of the, the comp that you're paid, all of those are factors. And you've chosen to work in that environment. And so as a result, the pricing is a mechanism of all of that, calculation. And when leakage occurs, when you're not able to hold margin, when you're constantly asking for pricing exceptions because you don't put in place these tactics, then what happens is that you have to maintain a higher margin on your rate sheet to account for that leakage. And ultimately, you're going to be staring down the barrel of higher interest rates on your rate sheet on a daily basis and making your job more difficult. So those are just a couple things that when I hear the conversation about rate, Dave, I can't help but bring up a few of those thoughts. I hope that's helpful.
Oh, dude, you killed it. And this call is epic. I mean, we've had originators talk about Triangle of Trust, how they're flipping the conversation, and then having leadership and management come up and look at this from a business perspective just makes this call super rich. So we've got one more leader to come in and do his, I don't know whether we'll do it role play or we'll do another management piece on this. And Ryan Hills, are you ready to rock, buddy?
Ready to roll, buddy.
All right. So hopefully we got these stats and facts right. Ryan leads a region that did 1,294 loans, 450 million. The goal this year is 550 million. His favorite book is From the Utmost Highest. His favorite quote is, "We are what we repeatedly do. Excellence then is not an act, but a habit." Favorite features in Mortgage Coach are the TCA video. And of course, he loves the Mortgage Coach community. So Ryan, how do you want to play this? Do you want to do like Tony did and provide sales leadership? Do you want me to do sick Josh Mettle on you and have him role play with you? How would you like
I want to speak to it from a leadership level, but also let me sneak in and answer this as an originator first, because this is I'll introduce the concept. We can't talk about it. You guys can make it your own. This is a truth. Inventory is at a 20-year low right now. We know that. Nara just shared that stat. So if somebody's working with jankybank.com because they got 2% interest rate, there's a real life scenario that can occur and is occurring right now that their offer will never be accepted because jankybank.com doesn't have the best reputation. So rate then becomes absolute. It doesn't even matter, because if your offer is never being accepted, you can't even get in the game. And maybe 6 months later, because it's a 20-year loan, it's a very competitive market, then your 2% interest rate is maybe 3 or 4 or 5. Then you can finally answer that question. So it's just a concept that's real. It's not, you're not trying to even reframe the conversation. Just let your clients know. Inventory's at a 20-year low. We have a very good reputation. I know the people on the call, and I know they're earning business because of the reputation. So make sure you talk about that. It's not always just about rate. But at a leadership level, here's some numbers. 450 and 8.35. What are those numbers? 450 million, as Dave said, 8.35 basis points in PEs. Now, I share that not to brag, but I am happy that our team's pretty small, but we're really efficient. And 450 million is great, but we haven't always been there, and our PEs weren't always that low. I think industry average is probably 25, maybe even up to 50 basis points for a branch or a market or a region. And so I share that to encourage people that you can leverage these strategies to get those basis points down. You don't have to accept the industry average of 25 or 50 basis points. Tony alluded to exactly why that matters to you. To me, it's both an individual and a team challenge. Now, how did we get to 450 million and 8.3 basis points? Because our volume wasn't always there, and our pricing exceptions weren't always that low. And one, obviously having great people on the team that understand the context behind this conversation, the deeper why behind it. And again, they understand it's an individual and a team challenge. Tony alluded to that. But I did one simple thing, and the best inventions are the most simplest ideas and inventions, like a fork, right? All I did is say, guys, I just want you to do this and commit this to me. Leverage your strategies. Now, we've heard 6 or 7 today that are elite, from elite loan officers. That's all I ask the team. Leverage your strategies. If you have 3, leverage 3. If you have 5, go through those 5. And over the years, We've improved not only our volume increased because we were providing obviously way more value just by leveraging the strategies we heard today, but our pricing exceptions decreased. And why does that matter? Again, individually, I promise you, and I think everybody on the call would agree with you, it'll make you a better originator, not just better in terms of volume. Obviously, more value will increase your volume, but you're going to close more transactions and you're going to lose fewer deals, all while doing this with fewer pricing exceptions. But as a team, it matters. Your team can be your immediate team, your market, your region, your company. Holding margins with fewer PEs allows your company to thrive, to stay in business. Now, remember, we're not that far removed, maybe a year and a few months from the industry losing $200 per loan, guys. That's why it matters. We do this to stay in business, right? So holding margins, keeping PEs at a minimum allows your company to thrive. And as Tony said, allows your company to invest into better people, loan officers, processors, underwriters, better marketing. More importantly, in my opinion, better technology like Mortgage Coat and HomeBot and others. You can only invest into that if your people are holding margin and keeping those PEs low. So like I said, individually, yes, it'll make you a better originator overall, not just more closed loans. As a team, it matters greatly. It allows you to stay in business. It allows you to thrive and take that money that would have been wasted, $180,000, Tony. That's pretty typical, but that's a month, guys. Imagine what you could do investing that into better technology, better people, maybe even more leads. So one last challenge before I leave you. Many of us set goals with units. We talked about them today, and volume. I'm not so sure many of us set goals in the context of the conversation that I just had, which is pricing exceptions. So I wonder, that old saying, if you can't measure it, you can't improve it. I'm just going to challenge you to start measuring that metric and start improving it, because volume is important, units are important, helping families are important, but how many of us are actually tracking this at an individual, at a team, at a regional level and sharing those stats out? We have been, and we've been able to increase our volume and get our basis points down to 8.35 because we've measured it and we worked to improve it. So I share that hopefully to encourage you to leverage everything you heard today. I'm so thankful for all the strategies. I took tons of notes and already learned a ton.
So guys, and I also think that metric is a measurement of the perceived value that you bring. Because if you are not getting grinded and your conversion is high, that means you're delivering an amazing sales experience that has tremendous perceived value. So Rene Rodriguez, I'm going to have you go last to wrap this thing up. I want to go around the room. I want to start with Jeremy Forcier. And Jeremy, listening to all these great leaders, what were any takeaways that you had, or any leadership you want to bring as we go into wrap up mode of this call?
One thing I would like to bring to anyone who's listening to this, including myself and all of us on here, is that, we read constantly that like price compression, blah, 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 blah. The reality is that everyone's always going through the same thing. And I think that we so often think that it's unique to us or our company and it's our company's fault, or dude, it's all the same. It's industry. We all go through things the same way at the same time because that's how the currents work in our industry. So just know that you're never alone. You're just the same as all of us. And I'm just the same as anyone who's listening to this. It's just how you deal with it, how you look at it, how you can solve the actual problem. And the problem isn't price compression. The problem is that people get really bad advice. And if you're going to run to the bottom, you're going to be just like the buffaloes when the Comanches would run them off the cliff, and you will die. So you have to have something better than just price. Don't be the buffalo. They're stupid animals. They're awesome, but they're stupid animals.
Love it. Kelly Zitlow, any takeaways, any leadership you want to bring as we go into wrap up of today's call? Unmute yourself, Kelly.
So two things. One, what Rene said earlier, I think is so valuable, and that is, in order to get away from the price conversation, we as originators have to believe and have value in what we do. And I think that when we don't, when I see originators that don't, that just go to the rate sheet and, we talk about rate and it's just turn and burn, that's not somebody that is in this community very likely, or somebody that truly believes in what their passion is and why they're here. Our job is to help educate the community in this country on the home lending part of the process. And with that, I love what Greg said. And he said, as part of this process, I'm going to answer questions you have, and I'm going to answer questions that you may not know to ask. I think that in itself, that phrase really sums up what each of us do, because we do know just a tad more than maybe that person that's calling us about this process.
I love that. And I love the way Kelly talked about our clients and this country. If you've ever listened to my interviews with her, she is just so mission centric to help families make better decisions through education and clarity. What is that tagline you have? You say it like the Pledge of Allegiance. What is your value prop statement?
Yeah, we provide an honest, well-communicated, and knowledge-based lending experience to this country.
Solid.
Boom. All right, Dan Keller, any takeaways that you have? Be sure to unmute yourself. Any leadership you want to bring as we wrap this up?
Well, the takeaways are all incredible. They're from people in different markets with different scenarios. I didn't know what Josh was going to throw at me. I specialize in first-time home buyers, so I get a lot of calls that are, hey, my realtor told me to call you. And so just learning, like Jeremy talked about, you can tell that a lot of us have been coached in the same way. Triangle for trust. So I think my biggest takeaway, if you're listening, is that's how you're going to build that relationship right out the gate, is triangle for trust. And then you got to get your value proposition in. I'm up here in Seattle. Home buyers up here are savvy. They've already done the research. They can smell bullshit a mile away. And so if you try to steer away from rate, I got burned 2 years ago. I was like trying to cover up the rate conversation. They can smell it. They can see it. You're deflecting, and it just pisses them off. So triangle for trust, show your value, and then answer the doggone question. And Mortgage Coach helps me do that quickly, professionally, and with massive transparency, which we talk about on that phone call.
Love it. Shannon O'Hara, any closing thoughts? Any leadership?
Yeah, you bet. So one thing that as you're listening to the questions you answer, go through that process of truly listening, observing, validating, and expanding on what they're saying. So they know that you are actively listening and that it is going to be a unique situation for them. And then to tag on to what Dan just mentioned, they do want to know the rate, and ultimately it is an important piece of the pie. And so one question that I ask is, what is the best method of communication for you? Because rates change daily and throughout the day, I want to get you a timely answer when you're ready to move forward and make a commitment. How they answer that question tells me a lot about their personality, and if they're angsty or antsy and they just want to get to the bottom line. I then know a little bit more about just how to get to them and how to earn their trust, how to be their preferred lender for life, to accommodate what they think they need and want, while I am still creating value for them. So I do think that Dan is right. You have to get to the point at some point, but learn more about how to be strategic about it.
Love it. Mr. Greg Anderson, any closing thoughts, any takeaways?
Yeah, I think just, to piggyback on what everybody's saying here, it's really listen. And, it's being interested instead of trying to be interesting. And I think there's a lot of folks in the mortgage business that are focused on themselves, their production, what they bring to the table, instead of listening to what that client really is asking. And just, like Shannon said, the love, right? Listen, observe, validate, expand. That's huge. You got that from Amplify, and it's really changed the way I approach people as well. But that's the big takeaway for me.
Love it. Rick Scherer, closing thoughts, takeaways. Unmute yourself, Rick.
Yeah. So I love what a lot of people did on the call, which was what we learned at Amplify, which is LOVE: listen, observe, validate, and expand. And I think Jeremy did it really well. A couple of others did it really well, and it's just continuing to dive deeper and dive deeper and dive deeper. Understanding context, understanding where people are coming from, who they are, what they're doing, what they need. So I know as a side note, I've really, in the last couple of real estate events of the last week or two, I've really tried to master this, and it's worked out extremely well. So a lot of guys went deep on that, and I think that's a really good thing for people as we go out and meet with people and talk with people. It's a great strategy that we use to just really relate with people. You win the business at the speed of trust, and that gets you there.
You win the business at the speed of trust. Josh Mettle, this was your idea. Did it meet or exceed expectations, and any closing thoughts that you have?
Yeah, what struck me is how intentional everybody is around this question. And obviously this isn't the first time they've put thought into it. And so just very impressive, the whole group. I was really blown away. The one big takeaway that I had in preparing for this was I found myself at night just journaling out the answer to the question, what is your rate? And kind of spending some time to frame that in different ways. And so over the last 7 days, I rewrote the answer to that question 7 different ways, kind of just enacting that in my head. So if you're listening to Jeremy, who has such a diffusing, hello? Can you hear me? Like, I was completely off track, and he had me from that moment forward. So if you don't have that ability yet, and you're thinking, man, this is maybe beyond the level where I'm at, my advice for you is to get out your journal and spend the next 7 days and just journal through the answer to that question, because it's going to bring out a lot of magic, and it's going to help you get clarity of thought on how to really connect with people and answer that question.
I love that. I love that. So guys, the interview I did this Tuesday is a must-watch interview, because I spent half the interview with Jeremy, half with Denise. And not only did we answer this, but we got through their whole sales process. So I really look at today's call, and that call is like a training companion. If you were a branch manager and you want to deliver on the promise that, you know what, you work for me, you're going to make more money and close more loans, you need to help your team master this, shift from price to advice. And that's why I do interviews every Tuesday at 9, every Friday at 9. That's why we interview people, is to give you guys the advice you need to make that shift. So Rene Rodriguez, bring it home. What are your takeaways? What is your leadership to the mortgage coach community?
If I was a loan officer right now, no matter my career, if I was new, I would be dissecting this video for the next week and a half in what everybody was saying. I'd be writing it, as Josh saying, I'd be journaling, I'd be writing, I'd be in a mirror, I'd be practicing, putting a bullet in the chamber for each one of these questions, to the point where you get so excited you can't wait till somebody asks you this question, because you just know where to go with it. If I am seasoned in this industry, I'd do the same exact thing, but then I would turn each one of these conversations into a sales meeting, into something that you drill with your people, because you have the content, but if you're not delivering it to your folks and you're hiring a coach to do your job, then you got to think about what your job as a manager is. And so here you're getting some of the best coaching for free around, from the best of the best. So take this, improve your sales meetings if you already know this stuff, and take this content and do that. Last things I didn't comment on were Tony and Ryan, but you saw two people that, if you wonder if there's a career path in this industry, you just listen to those two individuals talk to know that there's a bigger picture to this. If you want to grow beyond being a loan officer, not saying that you have to, but you see that there's a mature view of the longevity of the business, that it has to run well. I'm so looking forward to this industry going through that maturity, to stop everybody fighting for highest basis points and compensation, to start looking at the business overall and how you run it. And I think you'll start seeing that the market is going to start forcing that kind of mature kind of thinking. And I'll end with this: know your brand. If you know Ryan Hill's brand, it's around video. I mean, Ryan, can you say something? Can we just look at that backdrop one more time real quick? Thank you. Okay. Can we just, seriously? It's that he knows his brand. He's not centered on the camera. This guy's a pro in what he's doing. He immediately stands out from the rest of us. He's got the lighting, but that's his brand, and he knows what he's talking about. So all of these individuals, they did some great, I'm going to write these notes up, because I literally have 3 pages of notes that I wrote, and I'm not even doing mortgages, guys. And if you didn't take any notes and you're doing mortgages, think about that as the issue. And so the content is there. They've given you the solutions. Man, what a powerful call, Dave.
Yeah, so here's what we're going to do, guys. I'm going to, Tony and Ryan, I'm going to give you both a chance to talk in just a second. And I have like less than a minute of closing thoughts. I am going to transcribe this. So when this is put and pushed into our YouTube channel, if you look down below, there will be a transcription of this. So you can go and grab that for anybody that wants to use this as a teaching tool. But Tony, you know, being a leader, you've heard this conversation. You obviously brought your sales leadership tactically, but what leadership would you bring to the mortgage coach community in terms of taking a video like this and turning it into action? And then Ryan, I'm going to give you the same question. Tony.
Yeah, thanks, Dave. Josh started talking about it, which is journaling and writing this out. Look, all we did here today was a giant role play, right? I mean, we had Josh Mettle asking some of the best originators in the country. You know, we just role played around this. And that's the notes that I wrote down here. This is absolutely a conversation that, yes, you should journal. Yes, you should write down some notes. But this should be, as a branch manager or even as a loan officer who wants to be better, get with the guy in the next cubicle down, the next office over, and role play this conversation. Because I guarantee you there is a lot of loan officers on this call who, when they get the what is your rate question, they're deer in the headlights. And what you saw on today's call was everybody had a script that they rolled into. And you know what you did not hear talked about one time on this whole call was what the rate was today. No one said what the rate was today. And that's the point, is that there's a way to transition this conversation. Obviously, you're going to get to the rate. To Dan Keller's point, you can't dance around this and hide from the rate. You're going to get called out. But you need to know how to quote rates the best, but you need to know this scripting. And you need to roll right into this. And role playing is the way to get there. And so from a leadership standpoint, I would say with branch managers, with loan officers who don't feel the confidence that you see everyone on this call have, this can be role played. That's all we did here today. Until you get it down, role play this. You should never be caught on your heels when someone asks you this question.
So great point. And I want to push this up to all regionals. You could be role playing with your branch managers, and then your branch managers could be role playing with their team. And if you can't get everybody in the office, jump on Zoom. But to your point, listen, learn, take notes, study it, but you got to practice. Ryan Hill, any leadership you want to close out with?
Two things. I wrote this down before Rene said it, so we're on the same wavelength, but keep the conversation going. This needs to be your next team meeting topic, okay? We started the conversation today. Don't let it end. This should be your next team meeting conversation for an hour or two. So I love that. Thanks for sharing that, Rene. I'm right there with you. Also, we're traveling to speak in Oregon, your hometown, Dave, and I know how this is going to go. This week, we're going to talk about leveraging social and video. We're going to share a lot of strategies. What's going to happen is there's going to be a lot of people that go, yeah, it's a good idea. It's a great idea. It's a great idea. And they're going to be really excited. And then they're going to leave and there's going to be no execution. And it drives me nuts as a speaker because I really want to bring value in actionable items. Don't be that guy or girl today where we go, you know, those are great strategies. Mortgage Coach is a great piece of technology. Then you leave and you never do anything about it. Don't be that guy or girl today. Do something about it. There was so much knowledge shared today. Leverage it all and leverage Mortgage Coach moving forward. I promise you, it'll make you a better originator.
All right, guys. So this is my closing thought. First of all, you need to ask better questions. You need to have better transitions. But if you do not show the family you listen to them by delivering more than a fee worksheet, you're still just a loan officer playing the rate and fee game. Monthly payment, cash to close, interest rate is a transactional triangle. If you want to kill it in this business, every single one of these people, they're not doing the transactional triangle, they're doing the advice star. Where, yes, you got to talk about rate payment and cash to close, but they're showing cost over time, transparency, and value. They're showing mortgage strategies like prepaying your mortgage and how to become debt-free last. So make that pivot. We are here to serve you. If you're not part of the Mortgage Coach community already, you know, request a demo, go to mortgagecoach.com or click down below, get a demo. If you are already part of the community, just share a TCA in the link down below. I want to see how many people can give us a comment, whether you're watching this on YouTube, whether you're watching this on Facebook, and show us how you are delivering advice, not just price. If you got value from today's call, give it a like down below. If you loved it, love it. And everybody on this call who dedicated time to watch it, thank you. And for all the leaders that put in an hour and 24 minutes to deliver your value to the community, I'm grateful. Thank you, guys. This call is a wrap. Take care, everybody.
See you guys.
Thank you.